Each month, myself and other Irrational Passions members will play through a new game. Modern to retro, obscure to popular. Games we've played before and those we haven't. We'll be hitting checkpoints as we go and discussing our experiences. Play along with us and join in the discussion. This is Video Game Book Club. Welcome, everybody, back to Video Game Book Club. I am your host, Scott, and once again, we return to the underwater city of Rapture. I'm once again joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Mike Burgess. How's it going, my friend?
Gosh, everybody, I just really love Bioshock 2. It's a full... Gosh, you guys, I just really love Bioshock 2. It's a perfect port of...
You know,
it was a good bit.
It was worth it for the bit.
It was a good bit.
Oh man,
it's a good bit.
You always get a good belly laugh out of me, Mike. You know. I guess continue, Scott. I'm sorry.
But yeah, how's it going, Mike?
Great.
I love Mike so much.
Alex, my friend, what's new? How you doing?
Honestly, there's fucking no way to top that. So just, I'm here. What's up?
Cool. And the disembodied voice for this episode, Mr. Logan. How's it going, my friend?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Mike's won the introduction, so completely there.
Yeah.
So, a bit of a backstory. That was done on purpose because Mike and I both had issues during our playthrough, especially this segment of Bioshock 2, where our game would just crash. It would just quit to the Windows desktop and we'd lose progress.
4 times.
Was it the same, like, kind of crash? Like, this? Did it play out the same for both of you?
Same.
Yep.
Played out the same. Pretty much almost the very same areas. So
I wonder if
we'll
it's...
get into it, though.
I wonder if that's, like, the remaster port or if it's the original port. I don't know.
Yeah,
I played
I don't
remastered,
know.
so-
It was annoying.
Yeah, I feel
It
you.
was annoying. But yes, we are finishing up the main story of Bioshock 2 with this week's checkpoint. This isn't the end of the Bioshock 2 series of Book Club because, we still have one episode left. But yes, let's give you a brief rundown of the events that happened in this checkpoint. So we make it to Fontaine Futures?
Futuristics.
Yeah, that place.
Futuristic.
You find it's under control of Gil Alexander, or Alex the Great, who is one of the creators of Big Daddies, and he's gone mad from Lamb trying to put all the consciousness or memories of Rapture into his head.
It's close enough.
Yeah.
And he does this kind of cool thing where before he goes completely insane, he leaves you, not you specifically, but just whoever finds the messages, tips on how to kill him because he's going crazy, which I thought was pretty cool. He's not insane yet at that point.
I hope you guys know when I become the collective consciousness of Irrational Passions and become a horrible, deformed blob, I'm going to leave secret treasure notes for you guys to find to kill me finally and release me from my mortal coil.
I look forward to it. Mike, you'll be in the diving suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Logan, you'll be in the little sister dresses. And I'll just be flying around in a little drone,
Nice.
That's how we'll do
Friendly
it.
drone.
I'll be honest, I feel like Scott kind of gets the best bit there out of three of us, considering Mike is dead at the end of the game, and I'm possibly dead or evil at the end of the game.
Well,
so
I just said Mike was in a suit. This is when we're going to take out Alex. I'm just
Yeah,
saying Mike's
yeah.
yeah.
Let you know I'm going to horribly electrocute you and your giant ball of self-Alex.
the minute you see Scott flying around, like...
I'm going to make sure you feel nothing but pain. No release.
Pain in life and pain in death.
If I'm
It's the only way to go.
I mean, you got to, as long as you call me Alex the Great, it'll be fine.
We could call you Alex the Great. Alex the Greatest. That's what we'll call you.
That's cute. Greatness awaits, baby. Let's
Pre-blob.
go. That one was for you, Logan. For your Oregon Trail piece.
Thank you.
You have to break these signal amplifiers and so that you can access a door because, of course, you're a big daddy with a giant drill arm. You can't bust down a door. Totally impossible.
This is some I want you to know, Scott, because I know you have problems with this. This is like some Bioshock 1 shit right here. This is like bread and butter, half of Bioshock 1.
This is just the time, the period of games. But
it's weird because I feel like, I don't know, like, I had way less of, like, this to me is when a lot of stuff started, like, really clicking together, and it's like, when Alex is like, this is, like, bread and butter Bioshock 1, it's like, yeah, because, like, it is just, like, exploring that environment, like, learning, like, fun and futuristics is, like, maybe the coolest location in the game. It's certainly in the run-in, so it's, like, I just loved, like, exploring that location, like, getting the, like, backstory, getting the audio tapes, getting everything in there, like, getting to see like Fontaine's like off is such a cool like moment if you played the first Bioshock game and everything, and so it's like it was just really
I
rad.
have no I love the story, and I'll get into this later.
No, but I'm saying like I think and like to me like this facilitated that in a really good way. Like I didn't have an issue with like go snap the 4 whatever bonds and like do all that stuff, and I was like this is fine. Like
I'm with you, Logan. Like ultimately, I think I wish there was like much like most of Bioshock 1. I just wish the actual objective was stronger or a little bit more interesting.
Yes,
but it is a good vehicle to bring you to little nooks and crannies of that world, and there's
like,
some good nooks and crannies.
Yes, like I think ultimately I'd rather do break the 4 whatever the hell it is things than do get like 4 little sister from Big Daddy's things.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the issue with that is that those, like, I put it in, like, Slack one of the days where it's like, those are just unforgivably, like, punishing. Because you just have to do it, like, especially if you, like, try to get all of them, like, the game eventually broke me. Like, I did not end up getting all the sisters. Like, I missed one in, like, I think the last 2 locations, which is, like, I just can't, like, it's just, this is not enjoyable.
Yeah, it's what I had last week.
And it just, like, it absolutely, like, snapped me. I was just like, man, because it's just, like, it's such a kick in the balls. We're just like, man, like, to get a little sister, so you have to fight a big daddy, which is gonna knock you around a little bit, and then do all these gatherings, which just get like progressively like more and more insane. And then a big sister happens the minute you get like enough of them, whatever. It's just like, man, this is not it. Like it's just not it. And like it was such a like a cool moment, and like because the game like steadily adds like more big daddies in each area too. So like when we get to jump ahead a little bit, like when we got to Persephone and there were no big daddies, like when it hit like the start menu, it was like, yo, like, and Persephone was so much fun to explore because I didn't have to worry about like any of that shit. It's like cool. There's not gonna be a big sister. There's not gonna be a big. I could just like explore everything I want to and like peace and like have it be fun, right? And it's like I said before, where it's like Bioshock 1 had the same kind of situation of like big daddies and little sisters, but it was basically just like you fought the big daddy and it was over. There was no like like it was just like way simpler and like way more like refined and like done better.
Yeah,
that was all a tangent.
But
yes,
we will go more into those things because all very good points, and I definitely have things I'd like to add to that as well. But we'll jump on that when we get to the soapbox portion. But we have to get the amplifier, take out the signal amplifiers so we can use the recording of the password to open a door to get the access to the plasmid lab. And from there we go to the plasmid lab and we have to turn on 2 breakers so we can light the factory. And from there we have to go on another collectathon to grab 4 flowers that are like infused with Adam that the Adam slugs eat. So we can lure crazy giant gill monster to give us his genetic key so we could find and access Lamb's secret lair. And from there we go down into Lamb's lair, we find Lamb and Eleanor, and Lamb, because Lamb knows about the bond between Eleanor and the Big Daddy, she like smothers Eleanor briefly with a pillow to basically knock you out. You wake up kind of all strapped to a bed, and Eleanor sends a little sister to inject you with a special plasmid or something, so then you can take control of a little sister and do like this stealthy-like section and get pieces of a big sister outfit to then take to Eleanor. So then Eleanor can free you, and then it's the 2 of you escaping to safety. But unfortunately, things don't go quite that swimmingly, even though it's underwater, because Lamb has rigged a bunch of bombs and has turned Sinclair, who got captured trying to rescue you, into a Big Daddy. And it turns out that Sinclair actually sold out Delta before he was a Big Daddy, because that's kind of what he did at his, what was it, a casino that Sinclair had? Or like a hotel?
I think it was the hotel, right? No, the hotel was Grace's. Casino might be right.
Sinclair had a hotel as well, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sinclair deluxe something in one of the areas.
Okay.
But basically, Sinclair previously would give Alexander Gilbert, like the plasmid scientist, test subjects to try plasmids on, and he sold out and kind of gave whoever you were prior to Lamb and Alex to be turned into a Big Daddy. So you have to kill Sinclair so you can get the key to escape. But unfortunately, like I said, Lamb sabotages the lifeboat, and you have to get a bunch of Adam so Eleanor can like boil the water in the ballast so you guys can escape. So you head to the pediatric ward to absorb some little sisters, and you have to fend off a wave of enemies as Eleanor then boils the water once she has enough Adam. But unfortunately, a stack of TNT right before the lifeboat explodes.
It was a good moment.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
It was
like,
pretty cool.
It was a great moment.
It was
Come around the
really
corner.
pretty sweet. So you get knocked back, but still manage to grab the railing of the lifeboat, and it starts ascending. And Eleanor's inside the life raft with Lamb, but it's filling with water. And I have to say, this was a pretty badass moment when Eleanor holds Lamb under the water.
No, again, I stipulated
Only
in
if
the
you're bad.
doc. It's only if you're bad. That's only
Yeah,
that's the bad ending.
Yeah, so there's good and bad endings.
Oh.
Yeah, I think there are like 6 possible endings in this game, and this is one of them where it's like if you basically have been like not the best role model for Eleanor, she'll do something like this. Well, she'll kill them. Because mine, she gave Lamb like
little breather.
mouth breather thing. Yeah, I don't know what to call it. Yeah.
Same trap.
Yeah. And it's cool because there's a good monologue about like
Yes.
forgiveness and being taught forgiveness.
Yes.
I would say like the whole what I like, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more later.
Yeah, we're gonna do a lot about this final scene for sure.
Introduce it. Like I appreciate the Witcher 3-ness of this game before the Witcher 3. I know not everyone here has finished the Witcher 3,
Never even played a second of it.
but there is like some aspects of being a role model will affect how the outcome of that game, which is one of my favorite parts about it, and how you are a role model will kind of affect that. And I appreciated this game's kind of effort at that. I don't think it works all the way, but I like the monologue generally. I think the ending overall I have a little bit more problems with, but it's a cool moment. I think it's a cool differentiator. But that's the end. Unless you had anything else, Scott. Because
So this,
No.
yeah,
But
I have a point of order thing.
I have also something. Yeah.
But yeah, and then roll credits. But before we get to the soapbox, I do want to remind people we are starting with Mike this week because he didn't get to say much last time. So we are starting with Mike's. But
Yes.
Alex, Logan,
Get some
do your quick.
chatty Nancy's over here.
Mine's quick.
So, I mean, I guess if we're starting with me, I get to be the Debbie Downer of the episode.
Can I just ask a quick question? That my point of order question. When you leave Gil's little thing,
That's what I was gonna ask as well.
it gives you the option to like shock him or something, right?
Yeah, you can kill him or not kill him, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Did not happen in my game.
Password is
There was no button to press to kill him. I just had to leave.
So
Interesting.
I thought this is the same thing at first too. There's something you have like. I almost missed it too. There's something you have to like grab basically that's nearby to then like do it basically. So it's not just like immediately available. You have to grab something, to then insert into the console, but then hit a button.
Okay, because like I
So
didn't
I almost missed it
Yeah.
too. Because I was like, what am I missing something in here? And then
the
Yeah, I think you're right. Because
the
I did
vote-
take him out.
the vocal prompt. I remember I did in my original playthrough years and years ago. Again, that literally that part in Gil's story is like all I remember from Bioshock 2. But I think I might have broke the sequence of the game because the dialogue that plays where he's like, kill me, blah, blah, it got like cut off right at the end and it didn't finish. and I was like looking around for about 25 minutes trying to figure out how to kill this dude in this tank, and I did not find
Maybe
it.
it did glitch out then.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe it's an interesting one for me to do that briefly. Yeah, because I almost did. I knew this is a big part for me because like in the original game, this is the only like quote unquote like bad decision I made. Because at the time, and I still think the game definitely steers in this direction. Like this is like the good decision is to kill him. That's what he's like very much telling you to do. Like you have to kind of be like, I'm not gonna like. And so I made that, and that was like the one bad decision to keep me from like a perfect quote unquote ending. But I still got like the good ending when I did it the first time. And this one I was like, oh well, I know not to kill him now. But even so, it's like, man, I really still feel like he's leaning me in the direction of like kill me.
Yeah.
Pretty clearly. But I was like, I won't do it this time just because I want to see what's different. And ultimately, just like a statue is changed. But yeah, that whole segment is really cool and really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was bummed out because I might have broken it. I think I have a save state for it, so maybe I'll find it. That was all I had. Yeah,
Mike, take it away.
Great. So yeah, I think I don't know. Obviously, we talked about our crashes and the whole bit, and like I can't say that was not like a bummer because there were definitely large swaths of that game that I had to completely replay, specifically like the Fontaine stuff where I had to go take out those 4 things I had to do. I had to do that entirely twice, and like then like a good half of it again a second time. So it was definitely.
I've been there,
like,
man. I know that
definitely
feeling.
just like, all right, this sucks. Like, and I please just let me keep talking because I'm gonna say ultimately like, even without that, I still like did not like a lot of stuff that was towards the end of this game. I think from a story perspective, that's what we're mostly have already been talking about. Like a lot of it's fine because a lot of it, especially is obviously from an era of video games where it's like, you know, be the good guy or be the dick. Like it's like almost like every video game of this era like had this motif about it, and like decision, like it had player choice, and it's like you kind of have like the 2 choices and
Infamous.
Yeah. Or Mass Effect, and just a whole bunch of there's plenty of games with that, and that's all fine. I get it, but I think like I can't look past, even with like some of that stuff being like good to okay to like good. Like I can't look past like a lot of the just kind of gameplay stuff that was just kind of became boring in this sections for me. Of like not even just having to go defeat these 4 things, like that, I think that was fine because again it's like a pretty open area. I'm still kind of doing the stuff I was doing in the last section where I, like, even though it wasn't necessarily like defending little sisters and the bodies and stuff, I still like being able to like prep a room and like set up traps and do all this like elaborate kind of work to like make battles more interesting. And I think like setting up all that stuff is a lot of fun, and like having all those tools at my disposal at the same time is really cool and interesting. Where I feel like in this later part of the game, a lot of that is just kind of like sort of thrown out the window, almost like in like some of these later parts where like they're just kind of rushing you down. I felt like I was kind of being rushed down like a linear path.
Yeah.
Once I got past the futuristics area, and it was like the Gil Anderson area. And I had to go collect these 4 things, and like that area felt a lot more like constricted and like kind of smaller. Like you're going down a lot more like narrow paths, and then as soon as you get to a place where you have to get a thing, it just like throws you immediately into a fight instead of like having you like be able to set up and use all these tools that the game gave me. And then the same with that part after it, like seeing the whole scene where you're seeing all of your choices and the statue forms and the little sister. I completely forgot about that part, but it was cool to see. Like it's a neat effect, and like how you like see it from her perspective. Everything's like all white and drapes and like flower petals everywhere, and it's all pretty. But then occasionally you'll get to a point and it'll flash back and it'll show like some horribly messed up dude. It was a cool like scene and showing that perspective finally.
Yeah.
But I think just after that part and like the whole final scene where you're like saving the little sisters and you're just kind of being thrown in these like it would feel like monster closet rooms where you can't you're kind of just have to gun everything down. You can't use like I feel like I'm just kind of just like there's like so many dudes running at me all at once. I have to shock them with a lightning bolt to stun them, and then just dump like a machine gun into them. Like I couldn't like, I've never felt like I had time to prepare like traps and other stuff like I did before, and it just kind of felt not great, and kind of just became like a mindless thing of like, all right, well they're not letting me kind of do what they like the cool stuff in this game anymore, so I'm just gonna like mindlessly follow this arrow till I get to the end. And so
there definitely was a lot of waves of enemies in this last part.
Yeah, there's a lot of dudes. Just a lot of folks. I feel like I killed half a rapture by the end of it, like the last chunk. Which, like, to be fair,
just, like,
you know, they'd already kind of established that is like this is way more an action game. Sure. I'm with you, Mike, because I think like right when you start getting into that comfortable routine of getting the little sisters and doing the gatherings and doing all that, which to be fair, overstays is welcome. I think like on a whole, I think like the combat in Bioshock 2 is fun enough to justify it, but I think there's a lot, like maybe 2 little sisters per section at the end instead of 4. Would have been plenty.
I mean, like I said in the previous episode, like I wasn't even going after every single little sister. Like I would just get the one that I would see on my way and just kind of keep going. So like I didn't have a lot of that. But even so, like I felt like when they would set up fights for me, they would give me opportunities to like be like, all right, I can set up a bunch of rivets here on the wall. I can set up like a wind trap. I can set up like traps and do these things. I can run up and like hack all this stuff. And like there was clear like sections earlier in this game where like there were like deliberate opportunities to like use all the tools in an environment to like aid you in combat and like make it more interesting. Where it's like, oh, I don't have to just like gun all these dudes down. I can hack this turret and like lure a dude into it, or I can lure a dude into this like pool of water, or do this. And like throughout this whole end game, it just kind of felt like I was like, you know, running through like a hallway and just like mass murdering. And like I like obviously I'm like using some different plasmids, but like I feel like there was less opportunities for like the environmental tools that they've been using this whole game, and like hacking stuff and using all this other stuff. And I just felt like it just kind of brought down a lot of the ending in terms of the gameplay for me.
That's fair. Like, I think of that, to go off what you're saying, like that room where you fight the 2 big sisters, right? Is like just kind of like a flat room. And it is the room where I think like would have been the most interesting to set up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And they like don't really give you like obviously for like somewhat of a story reason, they kind of are like supposed to be like, oh, this is it for you. You're being ambushed here. And like they don't, but they never, like I felt like an earlier section in the game, like you know you're going into a room and like stuff's gonna happen and you can set up for it. And I feel like a lot of these scenes later on like never give you that opportunity, especially like specifically like that one, and like the big final area where, you know, you're waiting for her to like heat up the thing. Like you're just kind of being constantly bombarded by dudes during that whole scene, and it's just like, how I don't have time to like set up all the stuff. And you know, it's not really like, and there isn't really like one particular way they're coming from, so I don't know like where I can set this up or that up, or if it'll even matter. So like, what's the point of even setting all this stuff up now and all these tools you gave me? Like, what are the point of them now? At this point, I can just, you know, dump my ridiculous Tesla shotgun into dudes, or, you know, just like dump, because at that point, like I also had like an opposite reaction with a lot of the combat. Like Logan was saying, like it was kind of difficult and like punishing. Like I didn't feel it at all. Like I cruised through a lot of this stuff.
I was a god in this world.
Yeah, like I was cruising through a lot of these fights and scenarios.
I did some min-maxing, I'll be honest. I didn't.
I don't really feel like I did. I was definitely like upgrading my guns when I saw upgrade points, and I definitely like when I got to like ammo machines, and like I would hack them and like discount the prices and do all that stuff. But I felt like fully stocked for most of that game, and
I laid out like all of the chronics, and I was like, how do I just become the Lord incarnate? How do I become unstoppable? And I decided to go with hacking, and it set it up so that way, like, if you,
hacking's really good.
It's really good. I like, honestly, I think the hacking improvement in the first one and like how snappy it is feels really good. But like I got it, so if you land on the blue one, it immediately ends hacking, and also everything is wider. All success ranges are wider, and all negative ranges are lower. And then like 2 layers of like the slow down the needle. So every time it would just deep, and then I immediately won. It was great.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. And like that's exactly what I'm talking about though. Of like, I feel like in these earlier parts, like there was a lot more opportunities to use that stuff, and in these later sections, like there was a lot less of like some of the environmental like hazards and like things you can set up to like lure people into that.
Yeah.
And like it just kind of was like, oh, this is kind of a bummer now.
A lot less turrets than Bioshock 1, though, which I do appreciate, honestly. At the end of the day.
What I would say to that, for the final scene, like at least, is that that final fight doesn't start. The kind of cutscene and then fight doesn't start until you go to the window to see her. And so I think in the game's defense, you could have used like there's a possibility to use that time before you get her to then lay down a bunch of traps and stuff there, right? And like I was like, my initial assumption was like, cool, I'll talk to her. She'll be like, they'll be here in a minute, get set up kind of thing. That doesn't happen, but the game does give you the opportunity. Like the game doesn't have that fight start until you do an action, right? It's like you could theoretically like bombard that room and everything and get like a bunch of shit there. And like even with the like 10 seconds you get from like when she says shit they're here to like when they kind of get here, I threw down, I tried to basically just throw down every single mini turret and every single proximity mine I had on like that bottom floor, and then I ran upstairs and threw down like 2 more proximity mines. It was like, cool, let's go kind of thing, right? And like for me, like I guess it's like a point counterpoint like discussion here. Like this is the part of the game that I most enjoyed playing. For ironic enough, like a lot of like the reasons you didn't like it, where it's like I like the fact that like a lot of the combat felt much more just like sudden, like it just kind of happened, like it came out of nowhere, right? That I didn't like have time to kind of throw down shit and like do it. So it was like, no, just it's coming at you all at once, like it's just kind of sudden. And like this area, both Fontaine Futuristics and Persephone, kind of felt the most like Bioshock 1-y in terms of like the atmosphere. Like you were going like all over like dark tunnels and like darkened rooms, and like the prison section I thought was really cool, like all the cells and how they kind of flickered on and off and like blasted out walls. Like I thought that was all really cool and neat, and like I think I really dug that vibe. And like the like monster closet rooms for like the pediatric ward and the infirmary and the pediatric ward in the therapy section, I liked both. I mean, I thought they were both like fun or fine. For me, it was like that thing of like the minute you walk into like that one section of Inner Persephone where it has like the 3 branching paths you can take, and like straight ahead is like the life raft. I was like, this is the end of the game. Like I remember this scene being like a final bullshit fight, and knowing that I'm ahead, I was like, cool, I'm going to plan ahead where like I just have gear, like I have shit. So like I was using all of my weakest weapons, and a lot of these places being like, I don't care, this is because like I know what I'm going to, right? And I also feel like the game gave you a shit ton.
Give you so much stuff.
They give you so much stuff in each one of those 3 areas, and it kept being like, man, like it was like the first time in the game where like I felt like I'm getting like way more than I need, and like it's cool, but like I was like max medkits and max Eves and max like a lot of like I had like shotgun from a max out, like I had like beat guns not maxed out, I was using them, but I was like, I'm getting so much up, I'm ready for it. And then the irony of that being like when I got to that final room, like for the final fight, I was still just like, man, I'm flying through medkits because still just like a shit ton of guys who are huge. But like I don't know, like I liked like, this part of the game, like it, I guess for better or worse, clearly it felt different gameplay wise than the rest of the game, and I liked the fact that it was like a kind of a sudden shift and change in like tone and feel, both Fontaine Futuristics and Persephone, right? Like for me, I dug that it was like it was really different, right? Like I talked to Scott before either one of you hopped on the call before we started recording, and the thing I mentioned is that like this is kind of the part of the game where like I really kind of think sunk into the game, like really fell in the game. And I could told Scott like I enjoyed playing Bioshock 2 this past like week more than like I've enjoyed a video game in a while, because I just got to like play the video game for like hours and hours and hours on Wednesday. Like I just played it for like 5 hours on Wednesday, and just like sat down, and just like actually like enjoyed this game for like the first time. And I did that in like I had a little bit of like left at like Dionysus Park, and then like Fontaine Futuristic, and like dive into the rest of the stuff into Persephone. And it's like, man, this is rad. Like, A, it's just cool to play. Video games are neat. Like, I haven't played a video game like this in a while. But like, B, like, this is cool. Like, it feels different than the rest of the game. Like, I kept saying, like, the game clicks at a certain point in time. The game clicked at a certain point in time. The game clicked at a certain point in time. And like, it finally happened. And I was like, yes, like, I didn't remember that wrong. Like, it is really cool. Like, it does just feel, I think, different gameplay-wise, and like mechanically. And I really dug that. I really enjoyed that. And I think part of that is kind of the disappearance of a lot of the like big sister, like big daddy stuff that plagued the game early on, and also the fact that like it's still there in Fontaine Futuristics, but like in a way that felt much more natural, in a way that felt much better, right? Because like I think Scott said it, that like Fontaine Futuristics is like a bit smaller, and like it feels a bit more kind of like closed off in some way. It might have been Mike, like it felt like a bit smaller, kind of closed off, like not like
I was talking more so about the next parts, not Fontaine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but like but like Fontaine Futuristics,
like the Gill area or whatever.
Yeah, and like the Gill area in particular that I'm thinking of, in like Fontaine Futuristics, which is like the very bottom area, or I guess it's like the first section.
Forget that the Gills area and Futuristics are separate because they're like
you like go through like a water.
Yeah,
the water.
But like I really like that, because I think I think part of my issues earlier in the game that eventually like did kind of break me, for like the big daddies at least, just like they were like so big, and like these areas were so big and expensive, like very kind of sprawling, that it felt like unwieldy, almost. Be like, man, I don't even want to like think about the idea of like chasing after these guys and then getting the little system, like walking like multiple, just like, nah, that does not sound enjoyable at all. And then like when you got to like the Gil Alexander area, it was just, there's a big daddy. Where are the two gathers? One's right here 10 feet away from you, one's right here 15 feet away from you, and it's done. And it's like, that's so nice. It's all just like right here in this one spot. And then like you walk into like the next room, and it's all right there. You walk into like, and it's like, man, this makes it so much easier and like more digestible to just kind of do. And like each one of those like kind of areas you go in like Gil's area felt like unique and distinct in like a really cool way, and like I dug that. And it was all like that to me was like the one area where like, man, everything in Gil's area has a purpose. Like every square inch of that fucking space, because it's not big, is like perfect. It's just like there for a reason. It's not just like just a lot of space to have a lot of space. It's just like, this is all here for a reason. And it was really cool and rad to kind of dive into that. Not to least to say also the fact that like there were a lot of cool like story parts of that, but like gameplay wise, even like it just felt like it was different than the rest of the game. And then obviously going into Ida Persephone, which is very different than the rest of the game, was also like super rad and cool, I thought.
I don't know about you, Scott. I'm kind of like torn. I feel what both of you are saying. Like, I'm definitely with you, Mike.
I mean, I was gonna ask Logan specifically, not necessarily like as a slight, but would you say that having liked this area more, was it more so because of it reminded you of playing Bioshock 1, or more so that it was like different? Like, because I feel like you're saying like the other areas, the game parts before didn't click with this area, where considering I feel like that's where Bioshock 2 did differentiate in terms of like what kind of stuff you're doing compared to like what you're doing in Bioshock 1, where it's a little bit more confined. So do you think like that's maybe why you enjoyed this part more, is because it kind of brought back like the idea of like, oh yeah, this is Bioshock?
I think it's less that and more just like, I think like because Bioshock 1 has big areas. I mean, a lot of the parts in Bioshock 1 are pretty big still, I would say, but it's more like, I think there was a focus to, I think a lot of the areas in Bioshock 1 like exist for a reason. Like in every part of like kind of every square inch of them like makes sense, and like what's kind of like building you towards in that individual area, and like the kind of like the little like mini boss you'll find in each one. And I feel like in a lot of them, or at least some of them in Bioshock 2, that felt more scattershot, where like they became like almost like I didn't feel like I was being driven towards like a very like focal point thing, like narratively, and like that world didn't help that, right? Like the one I think about is like, man, like Grace is cool, and I think we all kind of collectively talked about Grace being a cool one when we did that the first time, but it's like I like Stanley Pools is cool. Like Stanley Pool, I think is cool, and like Dynasty Park, I actually really liked. But it's like Ryan's Amusement is just like, all right, that was fine. And like there are just like ones throughout this game which like that was fine, but like like what is this thing still? And then and like the Preacher Guy one was like that was one where like the world was cool, like that area was really cool, but like what like. You know what I mean? Like, what is this area? Like, what is, like, the point? Like, why are we here, really? Because, like, he's not really that cool, but, like, that world is, like, the building and, like, the aesthetic is neat. And so I think I liked, Fontaine Futuristics, and then, like, Persephone, and then Inner Persephone, because, like, they all felt much more focused. Like, they were, like, being driven towards something, and, like, it was a good marriage, I think, of, like, narrative and gameplay kind of coming together. That felt much more focused and refined than the other areas of the game, right? Like, for me at least, like, one of the big takeaways when I, like, finished the game and, like, put down the controller was, like, man, I just wish they had more time with this game.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
I wish the turnaround didn't be so quick. Because
got the Dead Space 2 vibes for real.
Because I felt like, because like we talked about, I think it was the last episode, I don't think it was the first one, where we were like, man, like, the last section we're going to do here is when I think a lot of the game kind of comes together, and I think that's true. If I haven't played it, and it feels like it's the most like they finally got like their vision of what they wanted this game to be. At least for me, I think. And I think a lot of stuff before that was like them very much like figuring out and like just like throwing in worlds and like I thought I had on Wednesday when I was playing Bioshock 2 for like a lot of the day, and then ended up like reading two different pieces that I gave shoutouts to on Input this week by Lee Alexander about Bioshock 1 and Bioshock Infinite. Is that like Bioshock 1, every like I think this is still true, even if beating the game, every single like henchman villain guy like mini boss you see in Bioshock 1 is better than anyone in Bioshock 2. They're all better than in Bioshock 2. I don't think a single, even Gil Alexander or Grace, is not as good as the worst one in Bioshock 1. They're all better in Bioshock 1. Having said that, I think Gil at least is one that kind of rises the bar, like that world at least rises the bar, right? And like, I think it's one where like they were like, this is the one that like, at least sort of like fit there really cool. And it's a really cool kind of sad and tragic and like messy area. And like I just feel like if they had even like not even like a crazy amount more time, like 6 months to like a year, I feel like just like refine some of the ideas, and they kind of like sand stuff down and like further kind of extrapolate on like what they were going for, right? And because like another one for me is like at the end of the day, and this is a question for Scott, I'd like he can kind of chime in here. We're like at the end of the day, what is Sophia Lamb? What is that character? What is her plan? What is her ideology? Like, who is she, right? Like, so, like, all I see you guys supposed to be is, like, obviously the newest to the game, but, like, what is Sophia Lamb? Like, what is she even, what is that character?
Yeah. What does she do?
Yeah, where it's, like, because, like, if I ask this question about, like, Andrew Ryan, they're very clear answer, like, who that person is, like, who that man is, what his ideology, it's, like, in the first fucking thing you see of Rapture, you get an image, like, all right, I literally got, like, the elevator pitch on who this person is, literally. And so it's like, who's Sophia Lamb after beating this game and playing it for 10, 15, whatever hours it was?
Yeah.
Right, like, who is that, Scott? It's like, I have no idea. Still, I've played it twice now.
I guess, like, the bit I could pick up from Lamb was, like, her end goal was to somehow by using all the thoughts or memories of the citizens of Rapture, like, to basically create a hive mind, basically.
Yes, basically.
She thought that by creating a hive mind, she would create the perfect person or society.
Like, I appreciate that we got the end of the self is like the only way to
that was the cool,
right? And like there's some pretty good monologues in there. You get to like as soon as Sophia gets out of imprisonment and finds out Ryan is dead and stuff like that, there's some good self-realizations. Never made clear on how she plans on going about this, you know what I mean? Like, what, like, I get it, you're dumping all this stuff into your daughter for whatever reason, but I'm like, how is that she can get superpowers from this? Like, we haven't exactly established what that's going to do to Eleanor as a whole, but also how that's going to get you to your goal. It's so nebulous.
And it's one for right too, where it's like Gil's got the great thing of like, man, like, look at what it's made. Like, I think Eleanor's gonna be the same thing as me, and Sophia's like, I think we look alright. Like, I think it's fine. Like, fine. It'll be fine, man. Like, who doesn't want to be a giant, like, crazy slug instead of like a Bacta tank thing? And it's like, it's just like, I don't know, like, the plan is so weird and ridiculous, right? And like the parts of the story that like didn't necessarily click were like almost literally like any time Sophia came up and like started talking about like that aspect of her story, then I was like, man, this just is dumb.
Yeah,
like, this is
dumb.
it's just like this isn't it.
I just think, like, I can just picture Sophia like on, like, in front of a dry erase board, being like, step 1. Adam memory, or joint consciousness through Adam, plus Eleanor, plus question mark equals like world domination or profit or something. Yeah. And it's like, we don't know what the
end up, you know.
She doesn't know that important in between stuff. Like, okay, what do I do after Eleanor has the memories? I don't know, but then
and
it's
like
perfect society.
Yeah, it'll be fine. We'll figure it out.
And it's a bummer too because I think I actually talk about this a lot, like every episode, I think, but it's like there are parts of Sophia's story that are like really cool, like that have like a ton of potential. Like anytime she's doing like her kind of like almost like as a religious leader, it's like a cool like tease of basically what Bioshock Infinite is going to be. And it's like anytime she's doing like the therapy stuff and like kind of like has people like switch sides and like is this person like fills this power vacuum after Ryan and Atlas each fall and after Rapture like basically falls after the end of Bioshock 1. That's really cool to like flesh out what happened next and like having kind of Gil Alexander step in there after like Su Chong dies from Bioshock 1 and like all these people. Like, it's really neat, but the game like is so adamant that like that is not the part to care about this character. The part to care about is the fact that she's like a fucking Marvel Comics supervillain.
She's like a mad scientist.
Yeah. And it's like that's the part that's the worst about her. That's what that like fucking blows about her, right? And it's like that's not what's interesting. Like what's interesting is when she's talking about like a cool like audio log, I think, or like maybe it's a radio message, like in the like ending part of the game, check about how like the upper world like can't handle like Rapture, right? Like they're like monsters, right? Like they're
afraid of us or something.
Yeah, well, like they've been changed by their experience here. Like they're not the same people anymore. Like they've become monsters after like 2 decades down here, right? And it's like that's really cool to hear kind of like her, I think, frustration and like loneliness in that, and kind of like how like what that's done to her even, right? Like it's kind of driven her mad, but also like she's kind of just accepted that as fate, right? And like, it's a really cool idea. And then the game's like, but also fucking hive mind, right? And it's like, no, like I don't like just like I'm like instead of her like her and Delta and Ella are making like a de facto family. That was even cool stuff they brought in like at the end of the game, but like even that they couldn't do right. Like even that they like didn't nail the landing.
I have to say, Sophia Lamb is probably one of the weakest antagonists I've kind of experienced in that I even remember from like the PlayStation 3 generation and stuff. It's like I still don't know why.
That's my pitch. Yeah, that's what I'm
she
saying. Right?
was so like she hated Delta. Like I get Delta was trying to rescue and get to Eleanor, but I feel like even the initial like shooting, having Delta shoot himself in the head, I don't get her mindset of.
It's like there's something personal, right? And it doesn't.
There's nothing personal there.
Yeah.
But it's like she seems to have this personal grudge against you when, like, to me it would have made more sense if she could control the mind of Delta or whatever. Couldn't she have just controlled his mind to be on her side, or like take Eleanor and then just have Delta like be the two of them's personal bodyguard or something? Like I don't get why she made us shoot ourselves in the head in the beginning of the game, and why she was so adamant about killing us throughout the entire game.
Yeah, it's super weird.
And like I found the whole stuff with Gil and like how he kind of was stealing people to test plasmids on, and how he kind of developed the whole Big Daddy thing. Like I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, I love that kind of stuff, and I really wish they had explored and done more with that aspect and kind of the history of like what really big daddies are, and like get kind of into that. But it just Lamb was just I don't get her. I don't.
Yeah.
She was a bad, like, overarching final antagonist.
Yeah,
And it's-
I think they promised her to be so much bigger
Yeah.
and better. Than
Yes,
she is.
yes. That's the weird thing
Yeah.
for me is like beating the game again and being like, oh, you don't really have a confrontation with Lamb, right? Like you don't really have like a final confrontation with her as a character, right? Like you just like see Eleanor either save her or kill her, but like you don't even like literally see her other than like the scene when she straight like smuggles Eleanor, but otherwise like she never see that character ever again.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
Like
it's a weird final like just like end for that character.
like
that
what they
story.
did. Like if they, I'm gonna rewrite the end of Bioshock 2 right here, and hear me out, you guys. This is my pitch. If they made it so, like, the moment when you beat the big sisters and go into Eleanor's room, and she's smothering her, if they gave you the choice to kill Lamb in that moment, I think it would have immediately been more impactful. And like maybe if you don't kill her, she kind of disappears off before the end of the story. But if you kill her, and then you still like Eleanor's dying, so you fall and die, and then you wake up. It's like the connection got broken. The splicers dragged you away, right? And then like Lamb is no longer a part of that story, but you get this big moment where you get back at her. And then like the rest of the game plays out the way it does, because essentially Lamb could be there or not be there. Just set off the TNT. It doesn't matter. I think it would have at least given you some kind of emotional payoff or closure for that moment. And like then you get that moment where you like have Eleanor in your hands, which never happens in this game. And like you just killed Lamb and you can't save her, right? Like, I think that there could have been like a little bit more power they could have taken at that moment. But my like a thing I wanted to bring up, just kind of still talking about like what Logan and Mike have been talking about, was on top of like all the positive things that we're saying about Gil's area, Alexander's area. That's like the first part of the game that subverts your expectation. Like
Yes, that's why I love it. Yeah.
That's successfully. Like you go into it's like Fontaine Futuristics. I played Bioshock 1. I know what the fuck this place is all going to be about. And you show up and some dude you don't know, but you might have heard of, who helped make the Big Daddies. And like he is like this very weird, quirkier villain that is totally different, and it has nothing to do with Fontaine. And I don't think he really comes up at all throughout that whole section. And it's finally like it's the only part of this game. And it's probably why it's my favorite, where it feels like time has passed and like the reign has changed hands of Rapture, where everything else kind of feels like the way it was. This feels like someone else has come in here and kind of taken over, and it's weird and different now. But it's still weird in the Rapture kind of way that I liked from Bioshock 1. And it has all the best parts about that, but it has that familiarity of like, oh, I know Frank Fontaine. I should know what this area is going to be like, and it's totally not what you expect.
And like
that's cool.
More than that, like we kind of touched on before, like the fact that like the final like choice itself of like what to do with Gil is like a trick basically, right? Like the thing that it like has been explicitly telling you to do over and over and over and over and over again for like the entire area, that Gil himself was like asking, begging you to do, that it's like the merciful decision. If you don't kill him, like he will cause untold damage in the world, is actually the wrong thing to do. And I thought like it's such a clever, awesome thing, even more so because you don't realize it's the wrong decision until later on in the game. Like in the moment, like when you kill him, it's like, all right, cool, like he's dead, but like I don't know that was the wrong decision. I think that's like what he wanted me to do. Cool, let's go. And then like when I played it for the first time, like I didn't know I made the bad call until I got to the end of the game, where you like walk through like all the statues, and it's like you like just like it's like Eleanor's like, oh, this is where you like made one mistake kind of thing, and it's like it's a really cool moment. I think of being like, oh cool, like this entire time I was thinking like I'd like gotten away scot-free, made all the good decisions, made all the cool like calls, and it's like actually goofed on it without even realizing it. And,
and
like,
I think you can
love
argue,
that.
I think you can still argue that it's the right call though, and I think
True.
how it's interpreted by the little sisters is kind of a telling of to their perception of reality.
Sure, and like
I've never seen that sequence, and we'll talk about it when we get to my thing. But I've never seen that sequence if you like murder all the little sisters. I don't know if it's different.
I mean, it's definitely different. Again, like there are whole like there are multiple different like Indian cutscenes, and like I know for sure one of them. I think it's like the most evil one is like if you're just like a fucking monster basically all the way through the game, and like because like no matter Eleanor like learns from you, she learns from your actions and your decisions, right? And so like at the end of the game, like as you like because you die no matter what, but like as you lie dying, like she's like, I'm gonna fucking burn the world. She's like evil. She's like, I'm gonna take over the world and like burn it all down, like be like just like horrible monster person, right? And it's like
Big mood right there.
yeah, and it's like again, like well, I'm sure we will get to it because there's definitely things to be said about the like actual like end of this game, but like I think that like, and this game is a weird one too, where it's like the choice presented to you feels even weirder, I think, or like less of a binary choice for like, do you save the big sisters or save the little sisters or kill them in this game? Whereas like in the first game, you had no relationship to them, right? Like at least it was like, I don't know anything about them. Atlas is telling me to kill them, so I'll get more. I could not do that because they're ultimately like little kids, and I'll do that because it's like the like good thing to do. But like the other option like isn't like crazy, but like this one is like, you're a big daddy. You literally exist to do one thing, and it is protect little sisters. Like if you chose like kill them, seems like you're just trying to be the bad guy in this game kind of choice. So it's like it is funny to still stick with like the like what do you do thing where like in that regard where it's like I don't know, that doesn't really make any sense of like the character of like who this because again like unlike in Bioshock, what's cool about this too is that like there are a few tapes in like the Fontaine Future 6 area where like Lamb talks about Jack from Bioshock 1, talks about that character.
Yeah, they're very good. They don't spoil Bioshock 1 also, shout out to them.
Yeah, they even like the way that they do like the like acronym thing is like so smart. But like it's really cool and clever, and like it informs stuff for like Delta as well, but like Delta is like an actual person. Like I mean like I guess less so now, but like he's an actual person.
He was
like Jack
at some point.
Yeah, like Jack was kind of like
Johnny Topside, right? That's what they were calling him?
Johnny Topside. And whereas Jack was kind of like a like clone thing almost, or like a hyper clone basically person who like of course he did. Jarrett had like an amazing description of Bioshock 1 and 2 where it's like Bioshock 1 you're like a person whose like sole purpose is like to kill and like destroy things and like be a monster who like over the course of that game can choose to not be that, right? Like it's all again about like a lot talking about choice and freedom and like deciding like what you want to be, but like you are somebody who is programmed to do one thing and just to kill, right? And like the game is you literally like fulfilling that kind of like thing embedded in your DNA to just kill. Yeah. Whereas in Bioshock 2 you're like a regular good dude who's getting like strapped into like this like monstrosity of a body, but like you're still a good person, and you have to like you're being forced by kind of the world around you to like wipe everything out and kill everything, even as you necessarily don't want to. And you get like a few moments to like not do that to kind of show your colors, but like otherwise you still have to kill everything. And like usual, Jarrett had like I like those descriptions, especially for Bioshock 1, but it's like I don't know. I think everything about Bioshock 2 is kind of weird, and I kind of dig that for the most part. And I think that's true of Gil Alexander's era and Fontaine Future 6, which is where this all started, and Inner Persephone and Persephone Journal. And I think it just feels like what they wanted the whole game to be in these sections.
Yeah, I think it like certainly is the most different, right? Yeah. But I am like ultimately, I think I do feel where you're coming from, Mike, and like
I mean, yeah, absolutely, it's very different. There's no argument to that.
It is like, and I think like just when they were kind of figuring it out, I think like we're in the middle there, and it sounds like we all are kind of on the same page of Fontaine Futuristic is like the strongest area, because it's like right when they really figure out the loop of that game, but they also start melding it with like new ideas, and it feels fresh. very late in the game in a way that's like pretty surprising, I would say. And it's cool because I feel like third acts of games just very rarely have that. Yeah, like something that's brand new, but familiar at the same time. So I get you.
I think it's rad for people who are like big fans of Bioshock 1 in particular, where it's like finding futuristics is such a cool tip of the hat to Bioshock 1, right? Because like in Bioshock 1, like I don't go to hell. It's a 12-year-old game, so like they're like play the game, Scott.
Scott hasn't played it. Just a reminder.
I actually think you should play Bioshock 1. Like I still think that you should play this game, but like it's just cool. Like there's so much there. Like I'll word it in this way, but it's like there's so much here in that world that are like very small, like little touches, but like go really far and like get into like because in Bioshock 1 you're never like in you never set foot in Fontaine's. You never set foot in like Fontaine's area because he's been like quote unquote like dead for a while by the time you get there, kind of thing. And like he's kind of gone, and like to get into like his area and like to walk into his office, which is a thing that like isn't like is not you don't have to do. You don't have to ever set foot in his office. Like you can just go there if you want to. Is like really cool and really rad, and like getting the like audio diary there is one of my favorite in the entire game, where like the change happens. Like I don't even know if you went to his office, Scott. But there's like a cool. If you pick up that audio log, it's like a really cool audio log of like where like the change, like who he is happens. Like he like switches that thing, and it's just super rad. And also, if you like find like the hidden thing where like you unlock the wall and like where the audio diary is.
With the teleporting tonic?
No, that's not his office.
Oh.
So his office is like with like
his office has like the weird. It's got like a giant bear thing.
Oh, the bear head you rotate? Yeah.
Yes. And there's the audio log there, and then it's also got 3 different safes all in that one spot. It's like, fuck, this is lame. Like I kept being like, holy shit. And it's like super. It's just a really cool moment, I think, for people who played Bioshock 1 in similar vein of like the like Sander Cohen collection that was in like Dionysus Park. There's just like these cool moments where it's like, this is just rad if you played the first game. And like what I loved about all of them that are kind of like sprinkled throughout this game, that there are a few in Persephone as well, is that like they're not like beating you over the head with them, right? Like you can super easily miss the Sander Cohen stuff. Like that's just like that's super easy to miss if you're not even like paying attention at all. Like you will blow past that. And then like again, you don't have to go to like Frank Fontain's office. You can very easily miss that if you just like follow the arrows and like not going in this area, the like thing on the top floor. Like you can walk right past that office, and it's like it's just like really cool how they like kind of had these moments where it felt very lived in. Here's like an expression Alex had earlier, where it's like this is just part of the world, right? And it's like it's not like a giant like show-stopping special like put on the spotlight here moment. It's like this is a part of the world that has existed and has kind of fallen away. And like noticeably to me, right? Like Gil's office is like as far away as possible from like Frank's office. Like it's literally like in the fucking basement, buried below another thing. And whereas Frank's on like the top floor of the thing, and it's like the power vacuum has shifted very much here, and like it's just kind of like decrepit and fallen apart and like been like ransacked. And another cool moment was in like right when you get into like the preacher area, right before Dionysus Park for like last week's episode, that I forgot to talk about last week, is when you like right when you walk in, there's like a painting on the wall right before you see like the Big Daddy like fuck up those people, and it's a painting of the plane crash that starts Bioshock 1.
Very good.
And it's a moment where like you can totally miss that. Like if you're not looking at that wall, if you don't think about it and just be like, oh, there's a painting, cool, and just keep walking, you'll miss that. But like I just happened to be, since the beginning of the game, like that area, like I just kind of like very kind of careful around it and like looked up and saw that, and it's like a super cool, nice touch. And like the audio logs you pick up on like Fontaine Futuristics about like Jack and like the events of Bioshock 1 are all super cool and super rad. And like I think one of my favorite things about Bioshock 2 is that by its very existence and like by the like telling of some of the stories it tells, it like helps flesh out and like make Bioshock 1 even cooler. And it's like I feel like it's one of those things people say about like, I don't know, like Rogue One almost for like A New Hope, where like it just makes A New Hope even better, and like Bioshock 2 almost makes Bioshock 1 better in some aspects. And it's like I think that's really cool and really rad. And it makes Bioshock 2 better because like it makes this a world that is lived in like key areas and key segments, right? And it's like those moments of like the pain or those moments of like when you walk into I can't remember where it is. Like when you walk into one of the areas, it's either the church area or Dionysus Park. It has like the symbol of like it's got like Jack's like tattooed like wrist, and then like him injecting himself. Yeah, and it's like again, it's another thing of like if you didn't play Bioshock 1, you would have no idea what that was.
And also like the implication that like the events of Bioshock 1 very much caused where Rapture is.
Right? Like that's what's so cool about it.
They do make it important like retroactively.
Yeah.
Even though like obviously it's the story of that game and it's the journey that you're on, it is important, but like they add to it, right? They treat it with a reverence that is
and that's the thing too, is that, like there is like this like reverence to it, right? And, like within like the people of the game, right? Like it was like a big deal what happened in that game, right? Where it's like it's cool because it's very easy to have had this game be like, cool, it's Bioshock 2, it's set like 7-8 years after the events of Bioshock 1, and you're a totally different character with a totally different villain and a totally different section of Rapture, and that's it. And like there will be like kind of like wink wink nudge nudge things about Bioshock 1, but like that's about it. And it's like here it's like there are still those like wink wink nudge nudge moments, but it's like Bioshock 1 impacted what has happened in Bioshock 2 in like really cool rad ways where like that are like it's just part of this world now. Where like these like paintings like Jack and like who he was impacted like Rapture, and like they've taken note of that. They've kind of like they've done paintings of like his story, and like they've done like his like markings like on walls, stuff like it's cool to see like the impact he left behind, right? Because like the Bioshock 1, spoiler, I guess, it's got like ends with him like leaving Rapture in some way or another. And also like the canonical ending of Bioshock 1 apparently is like Jack is a good guy, which makes sense. But it's like it's super cool, and like it's just rad to see them incorporate that kind of stuff and how like it strengthens, I think, both games.
What I want to ask, and I'm curious because I think Scott, you'd have the kind of freshest of all of us, perspective wise. Like the people talk about the big moment. Like obviously everyone who's played it knows the moment of Bioshock 1, right? Like this kind of reveal, this twist, right? And Bioshock Infinite, I think,
it very much has
its moment, and you could say that Infinite's moment suffers from its like need to like surpass or overcome.
Which is
like,
what I said. Yeah.
And it's trying hard. I
very hard,
very hard. I appreciate like the big moment of Bioshock 2 is like seeing Rapture from the little sister's eyes, right?
Yes.
And it's the giant bomb best moment, like at the end of the year conversations of like this is what Bioshock 2 brings to the table. Like this is the kind of flipping things on its head that the game needed to do, and I absolutely needed to do more of. I don't think it needed to do more of this specifically. I think they did just the right amount of this.
Yes.
But like how did like for you, Scott, like having been in Rapture for the first time, really seeing that perspective, how did like was there like any kind of visceral reaction, or was it just like, oh, this is neat?
I guess it was more of a this is neat. I kind of wish I'm on the fence where I would have kind of liked more of kind of that. I think it offered a really interesting perspective and kind of a change to the gameplay, which I would have taken more of those segments over the plethora of collectathons or
plop this little sister down and protect her for 2
minutes.
Well,
I only did the one mandatory protect little sister.
I did a lot of them.
So I didn't because I hated that first one. I was like, I'm not doing this.
And to be fair, they don't make you do it.
Yeah. So like I would just kill a Big Daddy and then I would zap the little sister.
How much Adam did you have by then? Like how much Adam did you collect throughout the game, Scott? You must not have had like very much.
No, I had a bunch.
Were you harvesting or were you
I didn't adopt, I harvested.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why she fucking drowned Sophia Lamb, because you killed the fucking.
Yeah, I was like,
little sisters.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
holy shit! You must have gotten like you got a bad ending then for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just like.
What happened at what? So now I'm curious. Just a totally really like question here. What was your ending then?
She killed Lamb, and then she kind of just went crazy.
Yeah,
like,
see,
I kind of,
yeah.
She suck you up with a little needle thing? Did she get
Yeah.
that Adam
Yeah,
out of you?
that happens no matter what. But it's like
Okay.
then like
Yeah.
what she does off that. That's
It's basically
crazy.
just like her line
Yeah.
that she says more or
Yeah.
less.
Is she like,
different.
I'm gonna fuck up the world now?
Yeah, it's kind of that.
Did you get a bad ending too, Mike?
No, I decided.
Okay.
I remember when I beat this game originally. I looked up the endings.
Oh, okay.
I got the good ending, but I just remember looking this up and being like, "Oh yeah, it's like every other video game."
That's crazy.
Good
See,
ending.
that's funny that you sat here silent while I just said to Alex, like, it's so antithetical to what, like, that character is to, like, even have the harvest option. And you had her being like, yeah, fucking harvested all of them.
Yeah,
All
I didn't do it. For me, it was more
A mechanical decision?
a mechanical decision because I had no desire. And
Now, to be fair,
like in
you
terms of my gameplay, I didn't do the traps or approach a lot of those situations like let's set up traps and do this like Mike and that sounds fun. I pretty much stuck with electro hand and then shock and then shooting people in the face. And if I died, I would just go back and shoot them in the face because that's another thing. There was like, I wish there was a detriment to respawning that made it worth it to not just run die, and just like whittle dudes
how often did
and
you
bosses.
die?
Like some of the little sister fights, I think I fought 3 or 4 little sisters, like outside of the main conflict at the end with the double. And I probably died a few times. It's just like I just run, die, and every little bit I would kill him, like because there was no reason not to. It's like okay, I could.
So buck wild to me. Like I'm
Yeah.
finding like this is crazy to me how you put this game.
Well, it's like I could use my resources and try and take him down, or I could just do what I can to kill him, respawn with full health and some Eve, and then go at him
I
again.
played Bioshock 1, to be
And
fair.
go at him again.
Yeah, I mean that's like what Scott has told me saying is like basically what I did for those last scenes of the game because I couldn't make the use all the tools that the game had given me up to this point to like do like the fun stuff. I feel like in that last part there was like less opportunities to do that. So like in the end game, I was kind of playing it the exact same way Scott was, where it's just I'd just zap dudes or like do like a bee swarm because it's basically like the same effect, and then just
that's
like
great.
just dump into them and then be like, all right.
The
See, that-
gameplay
that
of Bioshock and like gunplay, and maybe it's just because I'm playing it for the first time now, and there's been so much kind of refinement of first-person shooters since. The gun combat, I was just like, eh.
Yeah,
It's
not
like
the selling point.
it's dude, like enemies. It's not like a run and gun so much like a Call of Duty where like a shot in the head will kill a dude. But
Right.
it's not on the other side where it's
Not full RPG yet.
full
either.
RPG where people are like bullet sponges because it's a JRPG and they have stats. It's like this weird in between.
Somewhere in the middle, yeah.
And it just felt the gunplay was competent, but it just kind of felt off to me. So I was enjoying like the Grace stuff about the brothers that turned the preacher that built Rapture, Alexander Gill, everyone basically besides Lamb. I was enjoying this the story and kind of seeing that aspect. So it didn't bother. Like I would just play through the fighting parts just to get to more
Exploration and stuff.
the exploration and the story, and I think that's why things like having to do the long way around so I can get a key to unlock a door so I can get a camera, or like this time with take out the signal thing so you can get into the single room. It's like those seem just so dull to me. Like I loved the areas, and I'm 100% behind that the environment's really cool and kind of the lore hidden. That stuff is all cool. I didn't like in a lot of these how they decide to make you go and explore those areas. I think they're could have been much better ways to have you explore Fontaine Futuristics or whatever, or the areas to get to the plasmid development lab, stuff like that, then just find these 4 items so you can go here. And I don't know if I was trying to put myself in my shoes of how I was back when this first came out and not where I'm at right now. Mm-hmm. And it was like, would that have bothered me as much back then as it is now? And I couldn't come to a decision, but that part felt very dated. It felt like a very last gen kind of thing where we're gonna have you run around and explore and collect these things so you can double back around and unlock this door so you can do it again. And it's just, I love the exploration, I love the lore, I love the environments, but the reasoning they gave you and to do those things was just, it's like, okay.
Yeah. It's weird, I guess, for me, because I think Alex said earlier, was just like, this is just how video games, like, work. Like, even nowadays, like, this is how video games operate. This is how video games work. They send you on, like, go get these things. Like, they might, like, give them fancier names, but, like, ultimately still just, like, get this thing to then go, to, like, come, like, especially, like, these kind of video games. Like, they, this is how video games works. Like, even playing it again, it wasn't like, man, this is how video games played in, like, 2009. It's like, this is how video games played in 2019 still. This is still how Horizon Zero Dawn operates. This is still how, like, these kind of games work. It's like, go over here and get these things and come back and do this thing. So it's like, your argument is not, like, invalid. It's like, this is what games are. Like, it's like, for, like, there are exceptions, but, like, I still feel like
we're so far now that we've gotten, like, the taste of the other side of that. Like, I don't know, man, everything about Bioshock 2 reminds me of Dead Space 2. And I don't know, Mike, Scott, if you guys feel the same way. But, like, they're like a year apart. They are so weirdly similar in how they approach being a sequel. I think Dead Space 2 does a much better job environmentally, like, of, like, creating original things. But, like, also Dead Space 2 has you go back to the Ishimura. It's, like, super weird. Like, and the thing is, looking at these two so close to each other, which is, it's one of the reasons why I love book clubs so much. I really I'm starting to, like, look back at that era of games with, like, a much broader, much more knowing feeling of, like, man, like, there are so many games that came out in very quick succession, so many twos that came out in very quick succession that are all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's wild to me. But, like, I don't think all video game objectives are as thinly veiled as Bioshock 2's go to the robot box and break the thing on it. Like, I think...
Can I just ask, why couldn't we just shoot the damn thing?
Yeah, why'd you have to touch it?
No, like, the little Gil's little flying drone that would just
robot?
That would just sing. Why did I have to search around? See, little things like that. It's like, why did I have to walk around this whole place?
No, but, like,
to break these things.
I don't know, man. That's
when I have killed.
But like,
I've killed like 50 of these flying drones.
It's like, because, like, that to me is one where it's like, they answered because, like, he's giving you narrative throughout the entire time we're around. Like, he's giving you stuff.
And also, I think like, if you killed the drone, another one would come. Like, right. Control of all the robots.
That's the thing too. That's like B, and like C is like, this is like I don't, because you started talking about this stuff. I think in the very first episode, like, you mentioned like a few, like, not being able to, like, smash through, like, the thing with, like, the drill power thing, and it's like, this is just like, I don't know, like, I guess maybe I just played more of these games 10 years ago or whatever, but it's like, this is just video games to me. Like, this is just how they operate. Like, I never thought that, like, if I shoot this one, another one won't just come back up, or, like, something else won't happen, or, like, I can't, like, I understand that I can't, like the power dash ability they give you. I thought about this, like, literally today when I was finishing the end of the game. Today was just like, man, like, they did literally give you that for one thing. And then never go back to it. But, like, to be fair, if you use it on enemies, it'll fucking murder them.
Yeah.
But it's like, they showed it for that one door, and that's it. And, like, I was like, yeah, that's weird and, like, dumb, but, like, also, this is a video game from 2009.
But also, like,
kind of,
it's a video game can't be an excuse. And also, if the game fails to keep your perception of it being a video game, if it like can't if it can't keep the blinders on and everything starts to peel back and you start to see all of the ways in which it is so obviously a video game, which I think Bioshock 2 specifically fails at, because
I disagree.
Because you never do anything different in that game until the little sister part. Like, you were literally going from here to here, press a button, kill a big daddy, get a little sister, collect harvest, and repeat the entire time. There's nothing different. You go underwater sometimes, you fight big sisters sometimes. That's it. Like, the actual point to point gameplay is the same until you go to the little sister part, which is what makes it such a huge splash in the well, and it feels so out of left field, and it is such a twist. And I think, like, the biggest thing is, like, Bioshock 1 totally victim of the same problem, and Bioshock 2 is just more of that problem up until that point. And so, like, for me, because I totally understand where you're coming from, Scott, like, the blinders are just gone by the end of it. I've been doing this over and over and over again. I cannot just turn my head away from this bullshit. Like, it is just the same. Take out my shotgun, shoot 4 shots, go here, another enemy, and like they do a better job at it than I think a lot of 2s like of the era, and I like Bioshock 2, but like I think looking back at it as like a whole and on a much bigger scale, like the game fails to mix it up enough, and when they finally hit their stride and they do start mixing it up, it's like, man, we could use 10 more hours of this, like all the way at the beginning.
And I don't mean to say that, like, I in general don't necessarily mind like having to run and collect things and bring them back or finding it's just literally in this part you break the 4 things so you can enter a door, fine, then you go to another area so you can find 4 things to progress the story. It's like, and it's just, and in terms of the breaking of the glass and everything, that was still early on. It's like, I feel like I'm this big hulking brute. I'm powerful. I should be strong. Like, I have this massive drill arm. Yet the thing that was just a huge disconnect for me, because so much of the game was telling me, it's like, oh, you're this big, imposing, giant, big daddy, and you just like wreck dudes, and you have this drill arm, but it's like a pane of glass. It's like, and there's no reason why you couldn't just like put your hand through and grab it. And that was my bigger issue with that segment. It's like the dichotomy of being told I'm strong, but a broken piece of glass I can't just reach through.
To be fair, still fair. It is video game things, but it is still fair. And it's like it shows how much games have grown.
And that stuff just like that stuff adds up.
Yeah,
I cannot disagree enough, man. Wow, like I don't know. Like, I feel like these arguments are like, this is video games in 2019. Like, I don't know. Like, this, like, playing Bioshock 2, I was like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, like the only thing playing this game for me that I was like, man, that's something that hasn't aged well in like 10 years, or like is just kind of like annoying, is like the fucking arrow. That was like the only thing I'm like, man, this arrow can go.
This is the bait of yours. I like the arrow because I get lost so easily.
I would love it if I could like be like a button I hit to like have it pop up for like a second, like show the way. But like the fact that it's like always there, and if you go off the beaten path once, it starts like freaking out. It's like I swear to God, I'll be back. Like, just like, and it's just like so fucking huge and just like dead center at the top of your screen. It's like, all right, like just calm down. But like, and like the menus are kind of messy. But like otherwise, I'm like, man, like this feels like a game that like largely like, if you make it look prettier, is like, I feel like this is a game that could have come out 2 years ago. Like I'm not like you being like,
I don't see that.
I'm
totally
like dumbfounded. This game that came out, like, it's like, yeah, it's a 2009 video game, but like a lot of this, like,
here, like Logan, I see what you're saying. Like,
came out last year, and like you're still gonna have like things that like, I am a giant fucking samurai warrior, and like I can't jump over this branch that's falling on the block of my way, and it's like I'm a this thing, and I can't do this, and it's like, this is how video games have to operate in order to like have you go where they want you to go, right? Or like,
but like
this is how they have to have
some
you
video
do
games
things.
today in this year totally do, and I'm with you. Like I think a good example of this, of a game that is very similar, weirdly enough, to Bioshock 2 is like Spider-Man from last year, our game of the year, right? Like I think that is a very point A to point B type game as well. But not all video games are. Like I just finished Sekiro, which, to be fair, very good video game, but it very much gets in the way of like having to do the same thing over and over again. I know some people would very much disagree with that thought, but like the last 2 games I played were totally different than that. And it's a difference of like currently in 2019, not all video games are like this. In 2009, all video games were like this.
I don't think all video games were like this in 2009.
I think more
certainly were
than today. But like I said, once you get a taste of the other side, I think it makes looking back on that era of video games very different. And like this is the same feeling. A lot of the similar conversations to what we had when we went back to Dead Space 2. And I think like affection for a game can help you live and breathe in it more, and especially like reflect in that time period. Like I think I'm walking both sides here. Like I think I loved some of the levels here at the end. Like the Fontaine Futuristics obviously is great, but I also like, if I take the step back and look at it, I feel the blinders are gone, man. Like I can't jive with every point A to point B thing that this game has you do over and over again. Like it's very repetitive in a way that's crazy to me in a modern sense.
I think that's true. Like I think the game is certainly repetitive, and like I think the game like I think again like Bioshock 2, like I think I opened one of my points earlier things, like is a flawed game. Like it is a game that literally could have used more time, but like it's got mistakes and it's got things that is wrong. But like I think that for me at least, a lot of like a lot of those issues aren't, at the very least, like the one, like I don't share a lot of same issues Scott does, certainly, or like certain, or for the similar reasons at the very least. Like I think that to me, like you made the point of like you just do the same thing the entire game, or like go from point A to point B and like do all that stuff, like Alex, and it's like that's true, but also like I think the argument of the game, people who made it at the very least, is like it's the different worlds, right? Like it's the different like environments, different characters you meet along the way, it's different weapons and tools you're given, right? Like this to me plays like a fairly like it plays like this kind of game, right? Like certainly I can make a pretty compelling argument. This game is like more varied and diverse in what you were doing and what you kind of experienced than a lot of other first-person shooters, which this game technically is, right? It's like, and this game I think is in a weird spot too, and that I feel like Alex and Mike can appreciate, where it's like it is like a weird middle step between Bioshock 1 and Bioshock Infinite, right? Where it's like Bioshock Infinite is a first-person shooter, like that game is a shooter. Bioshock 1 is a first-person shooter in like pretty loose terms, like very loose terms. I'd even argue. Like, there's not a lot
for point of reference.
Yeah, like there's not a lot of like it's very different, and so this is like a weird like half step towards being Infinite, but like also still kind of committed to being Bioshock 1. Right. And like I think that doesn't do it service. Like I think it handicaps it in a lot of ways. So there's also that. Like I think Bioshock 1 basically excels in like every way that this game doesn't. Yeah. With like the exception of like hack and stuff is like so infinitely cannot overstate enough better. Like it's so like, and like it's that thing of like it's not even that like the hacking segments are like bad in and of themselves. It's just the fact that like you've played Bioshock 2 now, you know how much shit there is to hack in these games, and like the fact you have to do it every time Bioshock 1, what you have to do, it's wild. It's
wasn't it like
wild.
A pipe? Wasn't it a pipe dream?
It's a pipe minigame thing. It's absolutely wild.
I completely forgot.
And it's like it takes so long to get through.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's like it's a fucking puzzle. You have to do like
it's like all right, I guess I gotta
time you want to hack something. Yeah, and it's like hold on,
horrible spicer.
Wait. Give me like 5 minutes.
Let me turn some pipes real quick.
And like at the end of the game, those puzzles are nuts. They're like wild. Insane, and you literally spend like 5 minutes doing this puzzle, being like, I forgot where I'm at in the game right now. Like it's just like I don't even know what I did beforehand. Like and that way, Bioshock 2 is definitely better. But like, and like we've talked about it for the entire series, but like Bioshock 2 is like And I think it's like it's the most away here, but since it is like the end, it's also compared, I think, to Bioshock 1's and like what Bioshock 1 was in like its totality. And it's like Bioshock 2 was just like it never was able to escape the shadow of Bioshock 1 at any point, like fully accept the shadow at any point in time. Like I said earlier, like I don't think even Gil, I don't think any of the henchmen are as good as the ones in Bioshock 1. I think Fontaine Futuristics stands on its own as a great environment and world that would like belong in Bioshock 1. But like otherwise, I think they're all fairly interchangeable or done better in Bioshock 1. Or to be fair, Grace's area is done better in Infinite, which is something you'll see later on in that game pretty prevalently. So it's like it's a game that is like kind of caught in between these two other games. And like we kind of talked about in the very first episode, both of those games are such huge critical things one way or the other, where it's like this game always was kind of the game kind of
it didn't get all the way there, you know?
Yeah, like it was never as big a critical thing even when it came out. And then it just kind of like, I feel like it's a game, like we said, that like people either didn't play or they forgot it even existed or like didn't know it even existed, right? And so it's like, to play it again, it's like, I think I appreciate what it is, like this weird, almost hybrid thing, while recognizing the like kind of, I think, flaws that come with that, and like half good ideas that come with that, right? And it's like there's a lot of stuff that it's really, really cool, but like absolutely to the original point Alex made from 40 minutes ago, like being a little sister is such a cool moment, and like in particular, like if you have played Bioshock 1 before, like where because then it's like literally something that is years in the wait for you, where it's like you've been waiting years for that moment to like see what it is like to be a little sister and to see what it looks like, and like the fact that it is so different, and then like it cuts back and forth every now and again of like what the real world looks like, and like the exact same spot is so cool. Like it's such a brilliant idea, that like is like one of those rare moments where it's like they did this better than Bioshock 1 did something like that, because like, or like I don't even know if that would have worked in Bioshock 1, right? Like, because it was such a moment of like you needed almost to have like it be 2 games into where it's like you've been waiting for this for so long to have that moment. It's like it's so cool.
It's the one thing Bioshock 2 has with no equivalency, right?
Yes.
Like there's no, and it's like few games do a twist like this where it like attempts to change your perspective by giving you a different perspective. But in like all the games since Bioshock 2 that have done it, I've liked it. It's like Tales of Xillia weirdly has a similar twist where you kind of see the world from a different perspective, depending on which character you choose at the beginning. It's cool.
Rad. And like again, like a lot of us have talked about a moment while you're a little sister of like seeing what you've done as Delta, and like seeing those kind of highlights like repurposed into like what it looks like as a little sister, like what they have, what you are to them, right? Like Eleanor's got a great line where it's like you've like the impact you've had on me, but also the impact you've had on all of the little sisters, right? Like you've influenced all of the people here, right? And like it's kind of, and it's also her saying like you've impacted Rapture, right? Like you've had your own kind of like Jack style like impact on the scene that people have changed around you, right? Like Grace is different, right? Like Stanley is different, right? Or he's probably dead either way, but like
probably,
but like Gil could have a second lease on life now potentially, and so could Grace, and like they have their own thing. Like you've had this impact, and like you see it very vividly in Little Sisters, and also at the end of the game with like Eleanor's kind of final speech and like her whole like who she is as a person, right? Like, and so I think that's cool to see that kind of repurposed and kind of shown back at you, right? Like it's something that like the original Bioshock gives you in like its actual like final scene, but like before you don't get a moment that kind of reflect on it really. And it's rad to have it here and see it through like a little sister's eyes. And like I love like a thing that this game does better than Bioshock Infinite is Eleanor being a really cool person who actually makes a difference while she's with you. Unlike, I think it's actually Eleanor again in Bioshock Infinite, who is just doesn't really contribute to anything you're doing in that game's combat sections in Infinite, and it's just kind of like there and like
Emily?
just like Emily. Is it Emily?
Yeah,
Emily.
Is it? Whatever her name is, like her just like vacant, dead stare eyes, and just like flipping a coin at you, right? And it's like she's just kind of there, right? Where it's like Eleanor, and 2 is like way more of a character in these comment sections than she's fucking like spearing dudes and like taking out like huge enemies, and it's like she actually feels like that, like,
And you can throw her
like,
at people.
Yeah, like she's super cool. Like she does a lot of stuff. Whereas like in Infinite, it's like not there at all, and she's with you for way long. She never really gets upgraded, and it's like it's super cool to see her, like Eleanor in all of her glory in that big sister suit, like just like kick ass.
Yeah,
and like that's awesome, and it's a moment that like doesn't happen in Infinite when you have a female protagonist with you for the entirety of the game. You never really get that moment. And like it's cool to see it somewhat here at the end, and like the impact you have on her there, and like I don't know, like 2 does stuff better than 1 and Infinite at times, but it's also just like it's stuck between like a rock and a hard place, and like it's just a game that I wish had just had like more time. Yeah, like not even 2 more years. Like I think literally if we just had like a year, it could have like, because then I feel like it would have been less rushed, and like I think in some of the vein of like Dead Space 2 or this game, or like a lot of games like really of any era where it's like the first thing was more popular than they thought it was going to be. It was more of a hit than they thought it was going to be, and they were like, okay, we didn't plan on like having to make a sequel immediately for this, if ever. Now we do. What do we do, right? And then it's that thing of like, and also that sequel has come out now. And it's like,
look at you, Mirror's Edge.
Yeah, and like right, and it's like I think
I still have
Unraveled.
right, and I think it's hard, right?
Sealed
It's like,
copy
I mean,
of
like,
the latest Mirror's Edge that I've never opened.
Me and Alex talked a lot about it, and like they gave them a lot more time. But it's like the fact that like Naughty Dog did not intend to make a Last of Us Part 2, and I will never believe anything they say to otherwise. They did not plan.
Some
to make
people
a Last
think
of Us
it's intended to be a trilogy, Logan. I just want
There's
to
no way
remind
it's true.
you.
They're out of their.
I agree.
But they're so stupid.
It's Mike. Mike told me.
No,
Yeah.
it's like,
I agree with Logan. There's no way that.
Okay.
there's no way it's a
Yeah,
trilogy.
I'm like-
And so it's like, but like they clearly did not mean to make a Last of Us Part 2. They meant to make that a one-off thing, but it was so big they need to make a second one. And it's like I think that game is going to be way better than Dead Space or Bioshock 2. But it's like they also had way more years to make that story into something they wanted it to be, right? And it's like this just seems
a lot more money too.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. A lot more money.
Unlimited money.
And also the same team, but it's like it's that thing of just like this is a weird game for a lot of reasons. Like, and it's like I don't know. Like, I appreciate the fact that it's like out here doing stuff that like you can see in the next game. Like very clearly, like when Bioshock Infinite came out, they took stuff from this game. Like it's like you can see it in this game what
Just
they took from
the
this.
dual handing in itself, you know.
And it's like really rad and really cool, and like I don't know, like I think I kind of am just like here for a game and a studio being put in like an impossible situation where like they would have had to have known from the minute this game was like given to them that it was never going to be Bioshock, that it was never going to be Bioshock 1. But they were going to get not as much time, not as much money, not as much like press, not as much acclaim, not as many sales. Like they knew that it was just everything was stacked against them. And I think they still in the whole made a really cool, weird, complicated, messy, flawed, like unfinished, but like ultimately like great game. And like I think that's really rad either way. And like in the same way I think like Dead Space 2 is a fucking rad video game, even though it's like a lot of the same things, and it's like a very similar game like situation wise, like Alex has been talking about. And it's like I think that's cool, and I think that's rad. Like they actually made something that works for the most part, like unlike Mirror's Edge 2, which also to be fair had more time. And it's like I don't know, like I appreciate Bioshock 2 for what it is for the most part, and like are there things that would change? Yes, but like I bet you there are things they would change if they had more time or more money, like Scott said. And it's like this is pretty good for what they were forced to deal with under the constant daily knowledge effect, like nobody's gonna like it as much because they weren't Ken Levine and they weren't the actual team, and it wasn't the first time. It wasn't the first time in Rapture. It wasn't the first time doing this kind of thing, and like I think it's pretty rad still.
I'm really curious how many book club games we're gonna play from, especially from this era, where we'll have the thought, man, this game could have used more time. And like to be fair,
maybe a game next month.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, for sure.
I don't think any amount of time would save next game.
I love it.
Perfect.
Yes. But I don't know. Like obviously that's a thing that applies still to this day, right? Like Metal Gear Solid 5, Anthem, Anthem again.
Anthem again. One more Anthem.
Destiny, right?
I was gonna say Destiny. That's what I was gonna say.
So many games.
Or Division,
right?
even Division 1.
Yeah, it's and it's weird too because games have become such a continual thing that those specific examples had time to like recalibrate and basically make themselves after they were done. And games of last generation didn't. But I wonder how many times it's going to come up because I feel like it's going to be a lot.
That's why I'm curious to kind of bring it to next week, like next week's DLC, where like they had
just the whole thing,
or like they had time to like see the feedback too, and like see what people thought in some way, and be like, and because it's from my understanding, it's like very different from the rest of the game. Like it is like something that is like it's a very different feel and stats.
I'm just hoping it doesn't crash on me. That's
no, but like to see like what their vision was.
Goal.
Like, they had like a very clear vision, and it was much tighter, and like here it is, right? And like I think that like my hope and my expectation is like that's gonna be our favorite part of this entire book club is gonna be next week.
Yeah.
Because at the very least it's gonna be very different. Like it is not gonna be like this. Or like hopefully it's like the best parts of this. And so it's like I don't know, like that's what kind of has me excited for that. And also because like
weird, dude.
Yeah, it's a weird video game, right? And so that's why I'm excited for like one. It's that thing too of like after playing this game, it's like man, I'm really happy I played Bioshock 2 again because it had been so long, just to kind of get that refresher. And it's like I won't play Bioshock 2 again for a long time after this. Like I'll play Bioshock 1 multiple times probably before I play this game ever again. But like it's still neat and it's so rad. Like I'm so happy that like it exists and like it's weird. Just weirdness. It's a weird video game, and like there's so many almost there ideas in it, right? Like almost got it ideas. Like I find that really fascinating. Like it's a really like it's a game where like I would love to just read about it. Like I would love to read about this game and like the decisions and the direction and like the time crunches and like the difficulties and like why they did certain things. Like it seems like one of those kind of games, but I don't know, like I'm very excited for Minerva's Den to just see what like a fully contained, like from start to finish, this is our vision, this is our rapture, this is our story, our protagonist, whoever it's gonna be, our environment and world, whatever it's gonna be, like, and like when it's gonna be, like that sounds super excited. Like finally see that team get to tell the story like they want to tell from start to finish without having to like deal with Bioshock 1 baggage in the same way.
I will say,
sure.
Since we were very much reaching the end here.
Yes.
Shout out to you, Scott, for picking up on our just totally natural, organic, turning all the soapbox topics into one continuous conversation.
There you go.
It was good.
Or did you update the doc?
No, it's just like I think like I tried to bring up my moment organically, and then Scott brought up his really organically, and it was just I felt it, man. I felt that podcasting magic.
Yeah.
Alex just breaks all the illusion of it.
I want to listen. We got to pat ourselves on the back when we get one. We're not going to get a lot.
We got it, ladies and gentlemen.
At least I'm not going to get a lot.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I think we are coming up on 2 hours, so I think we're gonna call it for tonight. But in case you haven't picked up on the little nods and info and little hints we dropped throughout this episode of what the next checkpoint will be, it is, yes, Minerva's Den, the DLC for Bioshock 2. We are going to play the entire thing, which I hear is short, so that will be what next episode is all about. And until then, everybody, where can everyone on the interwebs find you good people? Mike, let's start with you.
Wait, do somebody else because I changed my handle and I forgot. Do somebody else.
Okay, Mr. Logan.
I know what it is, but
what do you got cooking?
I know what it is too, ironically enough.
What do you got cooking, and where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Lefty Logie on all the stuff. This week I guested on It Is What It Is with Jack Cruz and Jonah Peck for 8-Bit. It was a ton of fun. I woke up at 6:30 in the morning, so you should all watch it for my dedication and sacrifice to the craft here.
Jesus.
To hang out with the Australians. So go do that. It was a lot of fun. We got to talk about a lot of cool stuff and also very serious stuff that was sad. But it was good all around, and I love those Aussie boys very much. The newest episode of Input, a video game news show, and an Irrational Passions podcast, went live today as of recording this, and while we're live, on Friday. It was about the ESA and E3 and like what the future looks like and what the stormy present has been for them. And I actually really love that conversation between me and George. And it's like a tight, like 30-ish minutes.
I got that one
ton of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
It's a really, it's one of my favorite ones I've done in a while. And it's a good, like, just me and George convo, just one-on-one, which is a lot of fun. We don't have a lot of those. And again, I also gave a shout out on that episode to the 2 Leah Alexander pieces. One about Bioshock Infinite, one is purely about Sander Cohen from Bioshock 1, and they're both brilliant. Some of the best writing I've seen in a long time, even though they're both 6 years old in one case and a decade old in another case, but they remain brilliant and fantastic. So I also recommend you should all read them as well. But otherwise, on Book Club, on Input, on IPP sometimes.
Soon, hopefully.
In Alex O'Neill's DMs, oftentimes.
All the time. I can't fucking get him out of there. Honestly. Try it.
And then, in a dream scenario, in one Alex O'Neill's just like bed, just snuck it up there.
Logan,
you're cheating on me.
You're so
You
powerful.
asshole.
You can change a person's life just by saying hi.
Hi, man. Oh, dude, no.
He didn't say for the better.
No.
No one else knows about that.
We're not doing that, actually. That's a bad bit. But anyways, Alex, where can they find you?
I'm going to let Mike go first. I'll go last here.
Okay. Well, you can find me now on Twitter at MikeIP_.
The underscore is for Jesus. You got to save her.
Yeah, what's up?
Save her for Jesus.
Yeah.
Plus down and low. Everything else, mostly on youtube.com/Irrational Passions. You'll find
you did a thing this
reviews.
week.
You did.
I did the observation video review,
which I want to check out.
When's observation coming out? Is that already out?
It was out on the day that review.
Oh, that's right.
Tuesday,
cool.
I think. Yeah.
Sounds super
So
cool.
Sounds rad. Yeah.
It is fantastic. It is probably let's just say it'll be a video game talked about later when we talk about video games that came out this year and award fashion.
Wow, that was a way to.
That was a very smooth segue. Very,
We
very
got
smooth.
there.
Wink. Other than that, there's some indie highlights. I think by the time this goes up, and
This
the
will be up
edited
a week
form,
from today, so next
Yeah,
Friday.
there'll probably also be like maybe an indie highlights and maybe another video review for another video game. But from there, all I'll say is, guys, I had a lot of fun playing Bioshock 2 and hearing
don't
all
do
your
this.
different.
Don't. This is gonna make it really hard to edit the video. The changing of the borders. So fuck you, Mike. While you're still not here, fuck you so
I don't think he's
hard
coming
right
back,
now.
y'all.
I don't know if he's coming back either.
I'm gonna be real.
He just this is good. I have to make a whole new layout now for 3.
Alex,
Fuck you, Mike.
Mike spites us from beyond the grave. I just realized we all did content this week. I'm very proud of everybody here. It's me, Alfighter27 on all the social medias. IPP this week was good. Or last week was good. We talked about no, that was the week before. We talked about Rage 2, which was weird. Rage 2 is a weird game. I wrote a Sekiro review. It's finally out. It happened. It was released.
If I'm not mistaken, you had the internet's cutest boy George Cruz on last week's IPP. Is that correct?
Yes, he was. And Quinn is going to be on this week's, and now I've boiled it down so that way Jarrett and Logan can fight to the death to decide who will be on the next
Except
one.
for that's not going to be a fight. It's going to be Jarrett being like, I'm not going to be on a 4-hour show.
It's like,
And
actually,
just,
fuck that.
It's like, pass? Is that an option I get?
I wrote a review of Sekiro. I am the most proud of this review, more so than I have been. I mean, I feel like I say this every time, but I haven't in a while. I don't write or publish that many written things that often anymore, and I try to put like as much work and heart and soul into them as I can. And I think this one shows it encapsulates my very complicated but positive feelings about Sekiro. And then I got to talk to Scott about it, and we had a conversation about it. It was a very good one. It is up to the quality of how much I like Sekiro is how much I love that conversation. So the two bits of things you should definitely check out the review. Even if you don't like Sekiro or From Software games, I think it's still worth a read. I think we did a good job as to what Sekiro might bring to the table that might make it better for you. So,
truth.
Scott, run us out, and then we can end this so you can figure out the border stuff.
Fuck you, Mike. Yes, you can find me on Twitter at SolidSnake120. You can occasionally find me taking over our Twitch at twitch.tv/Irrational Passions. I should have a review coming up next week for Void Bastards, a video review for that. Hopefully also a review for Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel. That will be up next week. Yes, then I'll have some Professor RPG stuff coming up here real soon, so that'll be exciting. Tons of stuff happening. And probably some Neo 2 stuff, because Alex and I both got into closed alpha. So we're going to talk about more ninjas and stuff.
Yeah, we got to talk about Neo 2 for sure.
So, but yes, everybody, once again, our next checkpoint will be to complete Minerva's Den. So if you're playing along with us, feel free to complete it and join in the conversation. And until next time, everybody, stay classy. Have a good night.
Bye.